The following video is rated M for mature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Say, friends, wherever you are tonight, whether you're in the snows of New England or up in the Northwest, or on the warm tropical beaches of the Florida coast, I really hope that you're getting into the spirit of this Christmas sing.
'Twas some time before Christmas, and rising 7 feet from the ground, the tree was draped in trinkets aglow, and good cheer was all around. Warm slippers, a good book, and a sweater, all was cozy, and nothing was amiss.
But let's face it, look, this outfit, it's kinda stupid. So you know what? Instead, let's talk Christmas lists. Okay, let me level with you here. I am not going to make up some kind of philosophical musing or any kind of flowery and super wordy intro where I soliloquize for a while about stuff and things and eventually lead to the topic of the video. So I'm just going to come out and say it. I love Christmas! I love this time of year, and for a number of reasons too. Yeah, there's the coming together with family or friends, eating way too much food, the decorations, the trees, the presents, the stockings, enough chocolate to coat a colossi in a sweet and sensual sheen of brown, the whole 9 yards. It's a time for showing others how much you care, being kind to people a little bit more so than normal. To quote a wise old burb, it's the one time of year where we all act like the person we wish we could be all the time. On top of that, I actually love wintertime. I will gladly take a minus 33 degree Fahrenheit over a 130 degree Fahrenheit with humidity so high, every time I fart, it sounds like a bubbling swamp. I love the snow, I love the crisp chill in the air, I love how majestic snowflakes can look in the window, catching the glow of the street lamps below. I am also ass over tea kettle in love with how angry some people can get this time of year too. Sure, I can understand not liking the cold or the snow or even Christmas in general. I get it. To be honest, there's actually a number of things about this time of year that I'm not a fan of either. Santa Claus, that tubby red bastard needs to get the fuck out of my face before I beat his cherry-like nose into the back of his head with a bottle of Christmas cheer.
Go fuck yourself!
And some of these Christmas songs, good God, who wrote these and thought it was a good idea? Chestnuts opening on a roasted fire, Jack Nose frosting at your nip. A simple phrase for kids from 1 to 92. Every time I heard that line growing up, I would just imagine some old man, age 93, screaming. Now, all joking aside, I understand fully that this time of year it's not always the best, and for a lot of people too. That's why regardless of what you celebrate, if anything at all, I always try to be, the slightest bit kinder this time of year. Try to smile the tiniest bit more. I'm all about sending good cheer and good vibes all around. It's just something in the air, something all around. Call it nostalgia, call it infectious, call it whatever you want. The fact of the matter is, this is a cool time. And I'm not just talking about the weather. But at its core, Christmas is my favorite time of the year. We get to kick back with people we care about, reflect on the ups, downs, and in-betweens of the year, look ahead to the next one, and take a little time to spoil someone we care about, be it with a new toy, a pair of socks, or just a card and a hug. That being said, it's also a time to remember to be good to yourself. Take advantage of those sales. Get some warm-ass socks, drink hot cocoa until your eyes float, and make sure it has the tiny little marshmallows, you heathen. It's the season of giving, so give yourself a treat. And I am a selfish brat. I treat myself to things all the time. As a result, however, it makes me really terrible at making a traditional Christmas list. Unless it's scarves, chocolate, and records, my Christmas lists are kind of a crapshoot. But at the same time, however, if you come up and wish me a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, or even ask me what I want for Christmas, that's enough for me. The fact that you took time out of your day to ask me something like that, that does wonders for me. I'm weird, okay? I'm materialistic, but at the same time I believe it's the thought that counts. Cognitive dissonance, I think that's what that's called. And keeping that in mind, this video is going to be a special kind of Christmas list. It's not going to be your usual list of things that you can find on store shelves, but it's more a list of ideals. And I only say that because, for the most part, these things are either not material in nature, or they're more of a wouldn't it be nice kind of thing. These are 5 things that I want to see happen in the video game world. Take notes, holiday shoppers. This is going to be a doozy. Bloober Team are an independent game developer based in Krakow, Poland. Founded in 2008 by Piotr Babieno and Piotr Bialatowicz, Bloober Team are still relatively new to the industry, but have already made plenty of waves after being behind a number of games that, sadly, a lot of people have never heard of. In 2016, they released Layers of Fear, a crazy psychological thriller experience that you just have to try for yourself, subsequently releasing DLC expansions on the story as time rolled on. Also, fun fact, Layers of Fear 2 was actually announced in October of this year, and I cannot begin to express how excited I am. In 2017, they released a game called Observer, which, oh god, it takes the tension and overall sense of unease and brings it from the pseudo-Victorian setting of Layers of Fear and brings it forward 150 years. They turn it into a police horror drama in a cyberpunk dystopian nightmare where the world is a disaster and everyone is half human and half iPhone. Now, who remembers PT? That freaky house-walking simulator that was actually a teaser for a new Silent Hill game that got canceled.
No!
Man, fuck Konami! That was over 3 years ago and I am still pissed off about it! Well, at the very least, I know that the same creative team of Guillermo del Toro and Hideo Kojima are still working together on Death Stranding, which still looks like textbook Del Toro surrealism, and it still stars Norman Reedus, but now with less pants. You're welcome. The very first thing on my wish list is to see a collaborative effort between Del Toro, Kojima, and the people at Bloober Team. Just imagine it. The crew behind a first-person descent into the madness of a painter, teamed up with the mind that created Pan's Labyrinth and the auteur behind the Metal Gear franchise. While I can understand people not really being into those more interactive experiences, can you at least take a moment to just imagine? Imagine a game of any description where things are in the control of those guys. So much mindfuckery. Ugh, I want it. I want it. I want it almost as much as I want Half-Life 3. Oh. Let me be frank. I suck at first-person shooters. Now, granted, a lot of the Call of Duty or Battlefield games don't really appeal to me, like, at all, but even though those games are more than a little repetitive and stale and full to bursting with chest-high walls and daddy issues, it's not so much the games themselves, it's the actual perspective. I have focus issues, and it's easy for me to lose my bearings in an FPS, but for certain games, I was willing to muddle through. The Half-Life and Portal games are awesome, even when I struggled with that perspective. The 2016 Doom remake, it made me more than happy, and even kind of amped to give FPSs another go. Elder Scrolls Oblivion and Skyrim, they were a pain in the ass in first person. Of course, I discovered later that a third-person camera was an option. Shut up. The long and short of it, first-person perspectives in games just do not compute with me. Now, a game I am a big fan of is Overwatch. It's got a cool, deep story, lots of varied, colorful, and well-designed characters, and at its core, it's a really simple concept turned up to the absolute max. I'm terrible at it, but it's far more fun than it has any right to be. Especially when you turn voice chat off. I want to get better at the game, but the way my tiny little brain processes information, an over-the-shoulder kind of view in Overwatch would most likely keep me focused for a lot longer. Locking the in-game camera like that would make it a little easier to find one's bearings without giving anyone an advantage or disadvantage. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Overwatch the way it is. It's a well-constructed game. I just play the matches, I don't f with the loot crates or anything, I just log in and I have a good time. Voice chat off, of course. And I see some people are staunchly against any semblance of a third-person view because it might cause cheating. But hey, maybe if they went the Resident Evil route and locked the camera over the player's shoulder, the hardcore audience would whine a little less. Or how about making it optional? Optional! You know, like ketchup on your scrambled eggs, like socks with your sandals, or like those loot crates you spent all of your mummy's booze money on to get that Witch Mercy skin, or that 1980s Zarya skin. Please step on me! Dag dolls with 15 Chloes, fa la 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 la. I just want her to be happy, fa la 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 la. Oh, come on, don't act surprised! For those of you that don't know, I love music. Listening to it, performing it, writing it, I find a great deal of solace and enjoyment in music as a whole. But that's a story for another time. Do you remember earlier on in the video when I said most Christmas music sucks? Well, I still stand by that, but even I have to admit that there is some amazing Christmas music out there. And the next thing on my list might actually add to that. This is Mick Gordon. He's a composer and sound designer for video games. Now, when you think about video game music, oftentimes you're expecting to hear or if you're really adventurous, maybe even But Mr. Gordon here is not quite that cut and dry. No, he is a big fan of heavy metal drums, antique Russian synths with names that we cannot pronounce, sampling chainsaws for musical effect, and guitars so heavy my floorboards creak while listening to his songs. So fucking heavy! He composed the soundtrack for the Killer Instinct reboot in 2013, turning this into this. And the aforementioned 2016 Doom reboot, turning this already classic music into so why not go full tilt? I want to see what would happen if Mick Gordon did a Christmas album. I am dead serious. This guy took bleeps, bloops, and farts from classic PC and Nintendo games and managed to create absolutely mind-melting metal pieces. This guy could take Oh Holy Night and turn it into Oh Holy shit, I need to change my underwear. I will be rocking around the Christmas tree in a circle of death. Hey, anything's possible. It worked really well for Twisted Sister. This was a tough one. If I was given one wish, as it were, if there was one thing I could get the entirety of the video game world to do, to make happen, one thing I could get us all to just sit down and think about. It was really hard to put into words, but the choice was a lot easier than you'd think. Video games started as something so minuscule, so inconsequential, little more than a novelty. They started as ideas, eventually evolving into simple blips and lines on a tiny radar screen in William Higginbottom's lab in 1958, in an attempt to make science exhibits less dull in his eyes. Hard to believe, isn't it? Since then, I think it's safe to say that things have changed. Personally, I'd say they've exploded. We've moved on from those little blips and lines, puddles of pixels, bleeps, sweeps, creeps, and speaker farts, and onward to full symphonic scores, faces that push the boundaries of realism, epic stories that span generations, tales of adventure, terror, romance, and betrayal, sweeping sceneries and vistas that make Peter Jackson green with envy. We have made leaps and bounds in such a short amount of time. It's staggering to think about just how far we've progressed. Not only in design, but connection. We've moved on from just sitting alone, cross-legged on the living room floor, watching sprites dance across a rounded screen, to sitting down on our couches or easy chairs, turning on a massive flat screen, a console, and being able to converse, connect, and slay dragons with people continents away. And that's amazing when you think about it, but it's so common. Hardly anything to write home about now. And to be fair, it is common though. I could stop recording this right now, and 2 clicks later, I could be having a voice conversation with someone in Spain. Almost anything we could ever want is little more than a click, a button press, or a Google search away. The world has gotten a lot smaller in the last several years, but the gaming world has gotten monumentally larger in that time. And that is kind of the problem. Much like the holidays themselves, we've lost some of that magic. It has been scientifically proven that smell is the strongest sense tied to our memories. I firmly believe that for a lot of us, video games are just as powerful. I remember the first time in my life that I stayed up past midnight. I was about 6 or 7, and I was plopped on the floor, staring at a TV with a Super Nintendo controller in my hand, and playing Mortal Kombat 2. Against my mother. And she kicked my ass. I remember staying up just as late watching my mother destroy 100 levels in Bust-A-Move. I remember getting lost in gut-busting laughter with her playing a Beavis and Butthead beat-em-up. I remember going to a local supermarket and renting Mega Man X so many times. I still own all 3 of these cartridges. I remember getting a PlayStation and a copy of Crash Bandicoot 2 and being positively awful at it, and I didn't revisit it again until a long time after. I remember playing the first 2 generations of Pokemon titles and getting a Nintendo 64 Stadium bundle, taking it and a tiny little CRT TV with me on a bunch of family day trips, hooking it up in the hotel room and playing Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 until hours vanished. I remember getting a copy of The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time from a family friend, and how many summers I happily passed playing through it from tip to tail. I remember my first time playing Silent Hill 2, discovering the insanity and genius that it was, and in that finding my love for psychological thrillers. I remember finding Dragon Age Origins at a local pawn shop for $10, putting it in my Xbox 360, and never looking back. I remember a slightly darker time, going to that same pawn shop and finding Dragon Age 2 for the same price. And I remember my little sister seeing me play and getting hooked on the series as well. And now she knows more about BioWare franchises than I do. There are so many points in my life where I can remember where I was and who I was as a person based on the game that I was playing, or if I was playing a game at all. Video games are a staple in my life, and I know for a fact that there are other people out there that have the same kinds of memories. Their first game, memories of playing games with family and friends, times where games were there for them when countless other things were not, times when something as simple as King's Raid or even Candy Crush on a mobile device kept them going, kept them focused. It's the solace of a puzzle game, the catharsis of a fighting game, the thrill of adventure titles, or being immersed in a story from your toes to your head. For all the flash and razzle-dazzle that some games can offer nowadays, for all the blockbuster budgets, the fancy graphics, the Hollywood actors in the cast, am I the only one who feels like something is missing? It's so strange to me. Video games, in the long run, they're nothing. They're entertainment. They're a passing fancy. So how is it that something so, let's be realistic, silly, inconsequential can be such a powerful thing in someone's life? How do we find ourselves looking back so fondly on those little moments of wow, when we heard a game's main theme song play for the first time, or when we saw the first screen of one of our favorite games from the past? And how, in God's name, did we get to this weird and outlandish point of unfounded, impetuous, and frankly puerile superiority? What's with some of these abrasive and scathing opinions people crank out? PC gaming is superior gaming. Mobile games are bad. 60 FPS or GTFO. Can we all just stop? Just stop for a moment and think. Think about what matters. Think about why you play video games in the first place. For a lot of us, most of us, I can safely assume it wasn't a job. No, hell no, it was a love, a drive, a passion. We get so caught up in the next big thing, the biggest, shiniest, loudest, explosioniest thing. We see a famous actor is going to be in a video game and we just need to have it, even if it's a cheap load of crap. We see things smashed quickly together to get out in time for the holiday sales because it needs to be under that tree. Quality and credibility be damned. This is not how this is supposed to work. We've lost sight of things somewhere along the way. We're losing sight of what matters. We're losing grip on priorities. We're losing some of that magic. That probably rings a bell, doesn't it? A lot like the holiday season, regardless of what you celebrate, if at all. Every so often, there comes a time where we feel like the reason for it all, the point, gets lost in the shuffle. I know that's happened to me more than once, and this is my favorite time of year. We get caught up in things that don't really matter, things that shouldn't be the focus. But somehow, we find our way back on track, and we remember why we do these things. It's out of love. For ourselves, our families, and our friends. We remember. There is no contest, there's no competition, we just do. Out of love. Send someone across the planet a card to say hello. Call an old friend, check up on them, tell them they should come and visit sometime. Knock on your neighbor's door with a slice of pie and a greeting. Crash the party at your family's house and binge old Christmas movies while eating food that is terrible for you. Celebrate! Love yourself and the people around you. Stop finding differences between us all and celebrate the things that bring us together, as gamers and as human beings. It doesn't matter if your PlayStation 4 is Pro or not, if your Xbox 360 is still white, if you prefer console or PC gaming, that doesn't matter. What does matter is how we can all enjoy the same things for a multitude of different reasons. And we should revel in that. We should share that with everyone. Go play an RPG if you want to travel to the ends of the earth without leaving your couch. Play a mobile puzzle game if you just want to unwind after a long, stressful day at work. Or plug in a classic to reminisce and revisit times gone by. High quality graphics, big budgets, movie stars, frame rates. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how or where you play it. Just play. That's what it's there for. This video, it certainly is a lot shorter than just about anything else I've put on this channel thus far, but there's a reason for that. I spent a lot of time in this video talking about focus and priorities, and I'm going to practice what I preach. Sure, I wanted you all to watch this and enjoy yourselves, maybe laugh a little, maybe get a reminder for the reason of the season. But I also wanted to pull a Scrooged.
How many of you people have got the brass cojones to try something like that?
Look, I'm glad you watched, and I really do hope you enjoyed yourself. But for now, take some time off. Close your browser, step away from the internet, and step just a little bit closer to the things and the people that you love. Don't dwell on what you don't have, and savor what you do. Just enjoy yourself. Spread the love. It might just be the first step to getting some of this magic back. Then again, what do I know, huh? I'm no professional. Those are just my 2 bits. Merry Christmas, everybody.